our brains want, right? We want the easiest path. And so whenever you see an ad like that, or you see someone talking about it, even if you've committed to go all in on podcasting, and then you see someone else who's saying the thing to do is to write a blog, your brain's going to be confused and it wants to jump around. If there's a situation in your life that you don't like, how is it helping you in some way? Even if it's not helping you with what you really want, it's helping you in some way in the short term. Well, because I truly think that every marketing strategy works as long as you do the work.
Sarah, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. How are you feeling?
I'm good, thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Listen, the reason why I asked you to come to this episode was I couldn't think of a better person to talk about the phenomenon when entrepreneurs are doing everything, but the thing that is actually creating them the results that they want to. So you are the perfect person. And I guess in this episode, the listeners will learn why. But before we go into our main topic, you are in high performance coaching. What is high performance coaching? Tell us about yourself.
Yes. Well, high performance coaching is all about creating the version of you that can be at the highest level of performance at all times. So it's not about peak performance. And I think that that's something that people sometimes misunderstand. We think it's going to be like that perfect peak, like 100%. It's about raising across every level so that you're more disciplined, more focused, more consistent. You have more clarity and more energy in your life so that you are able to take on everything at a higher level.
How did you get into high performance coaching?
How did I get into it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I studied psychology at university, and then I thought that I was going to become a psychologist. And then when I talked to some different psychologists, and I mean, I just adore psychologists. I think the work that they do is incredible. And I realized that it was going to be really heavy. And I grew up, my mom's a doctor, and she would often like wake up in the middle of the night and think about a patient and be thinking, oh my gosh, what if I gave them the wrong diagnosis, and be worrying about that. And so I realized I didn't want to have that heaviness or that pressure, but I still desperately wanted to help people with their lives. And I didn't even know about coaching, but when I discovered it, which I kind of discovered through like online communities, I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I want to be doing. And I ended up certifying in the United States with the High Performance Institute. And I thought straight away, I was like, yeah, it's going to be great. I'm going to immediately have all of these clients. As soon as I certify, boom, all the clients will come. And of course, that's not how it works. And the opposite happened. I didn't have any clients for quite some time. And I had to learn how to market myself because, as you know, with entrepreneurship, you have to know the skill of what you're doing, but then you also have to learn this whole other skill of marketing, which you're kind of learning as you go. Most people don't generally get a degree in marketing and then do their the thing that they're going after in entrepreneurship. So once I had learned how to coach, I then had to get up to speed with the marketing, which took a couple of years. And then once I had it, then things started to work and I had clients, which was great.
Do you think it's a skill for any entrepreneurs to acquire the way they market themselves?
Oh yeah, I think everybody has to, right?
I don't know.
think you can run a business without learning the skill of marketing, but I think that the skill is different depending on what type of business you have, and even your personality. It can affect the type of marketing that you do and what you want to do as well, because I truly think that every marketing strategy works as long as you do the work. And that's the real challenge, is you can't jump around and change your marketing strategy every 5 minutes. You can't choose that you're going to do one thing one day and then something else the next day. You have to pick one and then you have to go all in, but they all work if you work.
Do you think that's something that entrepreneurs do a lot, that they jump from one strategy to the next strategy to the next strategy?
I think so, especially since we have so much freedom and very little structure. It's hard to know when you're doing the right thing or when there is a better strategy. Like whether your brain is just telling you, oh, maybe there's a better strategy, or if something really is actually a better strategy.
When do you think is the point where I'm like, okay, this is not working, I need to adjust this, versus, oh, I don't think I just put enough time to experiment with it?
I always say to my clients, I don't mind if you change the plan or change your strategy as long as you've got data and results to show for it. So you've got to do the work of a strategy until the end of that strategy, see a result. And the result might be that it didn't work, but you've got actual tangible results to see. This strategy didn't work. And then you can change your plan. Don't change it because you think that it's not going to work. You've got to actually see it not working before you change it.
Wow. Do you think when, entrepreneurs, they start one strategy, they get excited about it, and then, oh, I just want to change it. Is it because they get bored of the strategy not working, or is it just pure excitement of the new stuff? Because personally, that sometimes I see clients like, oh, I'm trying this new project management software, and it's like the fifth one that they are trying. And I'm like, what was wrong with the other one? I don't know. I don't think there was anything wrong with it?
Yeah. My belief is that it comes down to the fact that we've trained ourselves to get the dopamine hit from setting the goal rather than from seeing progress. So I used to do this all the time. It feels so good to set a goal because nothing's gone wrong yet. You think about the possibility. It feels amazing to try a new project management software that might work, or try a new strategy, set a new goal. It feels really good. And then as soon as you start taking action on it, things go wrong, and then it doesn't feel good anymore. So you want to go back to the thing that felt good, which is setting the goal or changing the strategy. So it really comes down to training yourself to get the dopamine hit from moving forward and from seeing results and progressing. And when you can get yourself hooked on that, then you will continue down one road.
That sounds like a very difficult task to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a challenge, I think. I think you have to, the way that I always get my clients to do it is to keep a list of the progress that you're making. Like, actually, I keep a little, in my Notion document, I keep a drop down of like what is working. And every day I go in and I update it. What worked today? So that I can see this big list of like, oh yeah, this is working. And here's like, even if it's like right now I'm growing my YouTube channel, and if somebody leaves a nice comment, I will take it and I will put it in there and be like, they said this, because it's so easy to forget what is working and just move on, be like, oh, it's not working, let's move on. But when you keep a list of all the evidence for your brain of what is progressing and what is working, you then get reminded of that progress again and again and again every time you go back to the list, and then you get to have that dopamine hit more often. So I think that's the secret, is to keep a list or keep some kind of record of what is working so that you can stick to that.
Wow, I love that tip. That's such a great tip. I don't think a lot of people are doing that at all. When you see like negative stuff coming, because you're collecting positive comments, like how do you deal with that? Then, okay, well, that didn't work. Or when is the point when you say, well, I'm not sure if that was a constructive feedback, or just someone hating on the stuff that I'm posting.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't engage with the things that are negative. And I mean, sometimes I'll respond to the comment because I'm just, well, that's great for the algorithm. So thanks so much for commenting. But I won't engage in terms of like, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not going to put that on any kind of list anywhere. And I'm just going to keep putting the positive things on the list, because ultimately I want to fuel my brain with the belief that it is going to work and not with belief that it's not going to work, because that's just never going to help to believe it's not working. The only way that you can really get somewhere is if you believe that it is working. You have to keep telling yourself it's working, and your brain is going to keep telling you for every little piece of evidence it's got, it's going to say, see, it's not working. So you have to counteract it as often as you can with it's working, and here's why.
Why do you think our brain does that?
I think your brain wants to keep you safe. It wants to avoid, and safety isn't just doing something risky. Safety is not spending any energy, because if you expend energy, then you might not have energy later on that you need to forage for berries or to fight off a tiger. So you need to keep that energy. Your brain wants you to sit in the house on the couch and do nothing. It's trained to keep you safe that way. So when you're starting to do something, put yourself out there, talk to someone, it's like, whoa, first of all, this could be risky. Second of all, it could expend energy that you might need later. And so you're literally fighting against your survival instinct every time you go to take action. And so you have to learn how to override that survival instinct.
There is a difference between the people that are actually doing or taking action versus people that are constantly just thinking about what they're going to do. Because apparently your brain cannot differentiate between you just visualizing the future and already feeling all the feels, and you're like, okay, I'm fine, versus actually going out there and doing something about it. That's a different type of, it takes a different type of person. But it makes perfect sense when you say that our brain just wants to keep us safe and reserve energy. So we're just using our brain and to imagine the perfect scenario.
Yeah.
Do you think that we need to change who we are? Like, do we need to morph into someone else in order to become a high performer or achieve our goals in our businesses?
I think that person is already within you, but you do have to uncover all of the stuff that's in the way in order to tap into that. So every version of you that you want to be, that you want to become, in order to create the results you want. I mean, if you didn't already have it within you, you couldn't do it, and you can. So it's that person's already there. We're not trying to get you to be someone completely different. We're just trying to tap into the best of you for that situation. And so absolutely, I think you have to tap into that. I'm always doing a practice that I like. Do you know of method acting that actors do, where they like step into the role of the character that they're playing? I'm always doing that. Every morning I journal on 3 questions. I ask myself, what result do I want? Who do I need to be to create that result? And now that I already am that person, what do I believe? What do I do? What do I say? What do I wear? What do I eat? And I journal that out every single day at the start of my day so that I'm priming my brain to be prepared for the day and be that person that I need to be.
And I guess when you are doing that, you're also that version of you who likes to, I don't know, hang out with friends, or like, it doesn't mean that you have to change who you are at your core. It's just that you need to tap into that side of you, right?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think there's any need to change who you are at your core. I think that's probably what's going to help you the most is who you are at your core. That'll be the reason why you succeed. It's all the stuff getting in the way, right? It's when we get in our own way by layering all the stuff, like not doing the work and getting distracted and changing the strategy and doing all those things that we put on top of the core of who we are, which is this person who can really achieve anything you want to achieve.
I love that. So let's go out to our main topic, which is I think I told you behind the scenes that I have been having some sessions with entrepreneurs, and the most obvious thing that would bring them results, they're not doing. And I just wanted to ask you about this phenomenon. First of all, I'm sure you have met this phenomenon, but why do you think entrepreneurs are doing everything but the thing that actually creates some result?
Other than for the safety of yourself, I think it's because there are so many different paths that you could take, and it's constantly being put in your face that way. Like you see on social media and in every ad that you see, a new, better, more awesome, quicker, faster way to do it. And that's what our brains want, right? We want the easiest path. And so whenever you see an ad like that, or you see someone talking about it, even if you've committed to go all in on podcasting and then you see someone else who's saying the thing to do is to write a blog, your brain's going to be confused and it wants to jump around. And generally, I think as well, entrepreneurs have a tendency, the type of personality that wants to be an entrepreneur has a tendency to want to do it all. We want to achieve it all. We want to have everything. And so when we see those messages online, it's very easy to want to pursue that, I think. I mean, that's exactly where I was for the first 2 years of my business. I just jumped around like crazy. And every day I would wake up and I had this whiteboard and I would write a new strategy on the whiteboard. And anytime I saw someone doing something that was working, it's like I wanted to, anything that was working, I thought, I need to know what that is. But I was confusing myself by doing that. The more I saw someone doing something that was working, I think I just thought, since I don't know what's working, I need to know everyone's strategy that is working so that I can make the best possible decision. But if I had just stuck with one person's strategy and gone with it, I'm sure I would have seen success a lot quicker.
When was the moment when you realized that all marketing is working?
Oh, that's such a good question. When did I realize that? I mean, in 2020, when I started to see results myself, but my clients were seeing results doing something completely different. That's, I think, when I noticed. I was like, oh, like I'm thinking the strategy is this, and they're doing another thing. Or I would have other coach friends or other entrepreneur friends who'd be doing something different. It wasn't until I had a level of success that I was able to see that, because I think otherwise I thought that everyone just knew something I didn't know. And then once it started working for me and I could see that it was working for other people with different strategies, that's when I was like, oh no, okay, it actually all works. The common thread here is the commitment to keep showing up and doing the work on that one strategy. It's not which strategy you use.
I love that. You were talking about fear, and keeping us safe and the energy consumption. How do we overcome those emotions to go ahead and do what we actually need to do?
Yeah, well, fear is just one of the emotions that stops us from taking action. There are 5 main emotions that stop us. So the 5 main emotions are confusion, overwhelm, self-doubt, fear, and then lethargy. And so to overcome any emotion that's in your way, but I call those the 5 resistant emotions because they're the emotions that most stop people from taking action. And every kind of other emotion, people say stress, and I'm like, well, that's pretty similar to overwhelm. And but regardless, even if you found a different emotion that you think is stopping you, the key to overcoming that is exactly the same. You have to identify what the thought is that is creating that emotion, because our thoughts are what create our feelings. So if you're afraid, you have to pinpoint exactly what the thought is that's making you feel afraid. Maybe you're thinking, people aren't going to like me if I do this. Or maybe you're thinking, I'm going to have to go back to a job that I hate if this doesn't work out. So you have to identify exactly what that thought is, and then you can address it. But until you know what's driving the fear specifically in this exact situation, because it might change tomorrow, you have to address the one thing in front of you, then you can work on switching it and changing it.
Do you have any tips for the listeners on addressing those emotions?
Absolutely. Okay, so let's take an example. Do you have one? What is a common emotion
Okay.
that you notice, either for you that stops you from taking action or someone else?
Okay, so I think overwhelm is one of the emotions that entrepreneurs, especially the jumping types, that I'm going to do this and that and that. So overwhelm.
Okay. So let's take overwhelm and let's imagine a thought that could be driving overwhelm. What do you think is a thought that would most drive? Let's just take for you. What's a thought that creates overwhelm for you?
And I think it could be let's give that example that you had, like, oh, like, what if I'm missing something? And what if there's something easier or simpler to do than what I'm doing right now? So I'm doing something wrong. I need to change my ways of operating.
I'm doing something wrong. That's what I'm going to pick out, right? That could totally be causing overwhelm. So you want to take that thought, I'm doing something wrong, and you want to flip it. So whatever thought that, if you're listening, you've come up with a thought that's creating a feeling in your body, take it and flip it. I'm not saying you need to believe this thought yet. I just want you to find what the thought is. So if it's, I'm doing something wrong, or I might be doing something wrong, then that thought is going to flip. And what for you would be the opposite thought of that?
I'm doing everything right. It's gonna work out for me.
I'm doing everything right. Okay. So we would take that thought, and now what we want to do is we want to argue for that thought. Just for a second. We don't even have to address that first thought yet. We just want to argue for this thought. And what I mean by arguing for it is we want to come up with evidence for why this thought might be true. Because all that your brain is doing when it believes a thought is it's generating a ton of evidence. When you think it might not be working, you're looking for all the reasons why it might not be working, and you haven't even given a chance to the other thought, but it might be working. And so when you then start by thinking, okay, well, it might be working, what are all the reasons that it might actually be working? You start to create evidence and kind of level the playing field. And usually you'll find that that thought then becomes very clearly, okay, it actually is working. But at the very least, you then get to consciously choose between those two thoughts instead of just naturally taking the one that I call the auto-generated suggestion that your brain brings. You know, when you like text on a phone and it like auto-generates what you should text, it's like your brain's doing that all the time. Like, do you want this thought? Do you want this thought? And you have to go, no, I'm going to manually override that and present a different thought here. And then get to choose. Do I want to think that thought instead? And usually I would prefer to think that thought. It really comes down to when you're choosing between the thoughts, I always say you want to think for the result that you want and not for the circumstance that you have. And so what that means is if right now you aren't seeing the result that you want yet, don't think about the fact you're not getting the result, because you're just going to end up feeling overwhelmed by that or afraid. And then that emotion's not going to get you to take action. So you want to be thinking for the result, regardless of whether it's going well or not going well currently. What would you need to think in order to get yourself to take the action to see the result that you do want to have? So your thoughts are not really there to be a reflection of the world. They maybe 10% of your thought is there just to keep you safe, like just checking that nothing's going wrong. Okay, we can put that aside now. The rest of your thoughts, 90% of the time, should be focused on the outcomes that you want. And you want to be thinking deliberately so that you feel the way you need to feel to take the action to get the result. But very few of us do this, and it has to be a conscious process all the time to be consciously thinking, what result do I want, and what do I need to think in order to get myself to take action to get that result?
But you're saying that the more we do it, though, the more it comes automatically, right? So we can prime our brain to be thinking differently and feeling differently.
Exactly. The more that you do this process, the faster that it will get. Initially, stage one, you're just going to get to the end and suddenly get to the end of a result and suddenly realize, oh, I wasn't thinking the way I needed to think. You will become aware that that you thought something that meant that you didn't take the action you needed to take, but you didn't do anything about it. Then the second stage, stage two, is you're going to become aware and you're going to stop yourself partway through. You're going to have a thought like, oh, this isn't working. And you're going to go, oh, actually, that thought's not going to help me. If I keep thinking this isn't working, I'm not going to take the action. And so you stop it and you think, okay, I'm going to think something else. But the third stage is where no matter what the situation is, your brain just brings you the thought that would be helpful in that situation, and you just take the action. So a good way to notice this is you're probably already doing this in your life somewhere. So I always get my clients to think about something in your life that comes so naturally to you that other people find really hard. Maybe you're someone who just finds it so easy to read, or maybe you find it really easy to get yourself to go to the gym. Or maybe you quit smoking really easily when someone else had trouble quitting smoking. Whatever it is, think about a habit or a thing that you do that other people find hard, and notice that your brain just naturally thinks thoughts about it that are easy and get you the result that you want. So you know that your brain can do this because it's already doing it in a way that gets you the result you want, where other people are not able to do that. In the current moment, they have to train themselves to do it. And it's the same with your particular thing that you're working on. You're going to have to train yourself to do it, but you do have the capacity to do it because you're already doing it for all the things that come effortlessly to you that other people struggle to do.
I love that. So you're saying that we need to look for evidence on the things that are easy for us to kind of tap into, like, look, you've done that here, so you can do it here. So just implementing those and like dealing with the thoughts of it.
Yeah, it's like looking at, so for example, I find relationships really easy. Like people always say relationships are hard, and I've never resonated with that because I have great relationships and I'm really lucky to have amazing people in my life, and I've always found them really easy. So I just don't have negative thoughts about the relationships in my lives. Other people don't have that experience. A lot of people talk to me about how they're really working hard on thinking helpful thoughts about their partner, about their mom or something, right? So, and it's not to say I've never had a relationship challenge. I don't want to act like that's the case. But in general, like I find relationships pretty easy. And so what I'm saying is when I then think that, oh, let's say growing a YouTube channel, which is a goal that I'm working on, is really hard, I know that there's people out there who growing a YouTube channel was pretty easy. They just showed up and kind of grew, like it just worked really well. But they might have a struggle within their relationship. The point isn't, oh, well, they have, you win some, you lose some, and they have some and I have some. The point is, if you can do it in one area of your life, you can do it in another area of your life.
I love that. So you were saying we are battling with the connection issues anyway. So you were saying that there are areas for people that come easy, and relationships come easy, growing a YouTube channel comes easy. Do you think there are some people who have it easy when it comes to growing a business and they have no blocks or fears around it, versus there are people who are just get it hard and they need to kind of carve their way out of it and think their way out of it?
Yeah. There absolutely are people who who don't find it as challenging in entrepreneurship. I think everybody does have the challenge of taking action in some area, or like we were talking about, like with your friend who thinks about like that there's no good men out there. Like there absolutely are people who do have it more challenging in one area than another. And that's why sometimes you look at people and you're like, oh my gosh, they just seem to be, they don't seem to have any resistance. But I can also tell you from working with a lot of high performing people that sometimes it's just that you don't see the resistance. You're just seeing the final product from everyone, and actually people do feel resistance a lot. I sat down to record a YouTube video and I was like yesterday, and I was just like, ah, like I was literally sitting there like, this is not, the words aren't coming out. But when you see the final product on YouTube, you'll have no idea that that's what I was experiencing. I had to get up, I had to get a glass of water, I had to do a little meditation and come back and sit down, try and re-record, like because it wasn't going the way I wanted. And I just felt extreme resistance and I had to work through it. I did some journaling on it. You're not going to see that when you talk to your lawyer, that that's what's going on behind the scenes for them. Or when you talk to your marketing agency, you're not going to see that behind the scenes they're going through those things. And some people do at varying levels in different ways. We all have our challenges. But I don't think people talk about resistance to taking action enough. So but it's absolutely everywhere for sure. Some people have it more than others in different areas, but everyone's got it.
I love it. And so what do you do to overcome those resistance?
Yeah, I mean, those things aren't really what overcome the resistance. Those things are just what I feel like doing in that moment. I'm like, okay, I just need a glass of water. We're going to get up and we're going to stop. But they don't actually change how I'm feeling. What changes how I'm feeling is when I choose a new thought and commit to that new thought and maybe come up with evidence for it. So while I was filming, the thought that I kept having and kept reminding myself of is, this could be the video that blows up my channel and grows it really fast. If I truly believed that this video right now was the video that was going to be amazing, that was going to work, then I would want to film it right now. Even though with every fiber of my being, I want to get up and just be like, I'm going to do it next week instead. But I decided, like, the thought I'm going to think is that this could be it. And that's what got me to sit back down in the chair after I got up. So you have to find for you what the thought is that would drive you to do it. And sometimes it's easy as asking, what would I need to believe that would make me want to take action? Even if it's not true. Like, what do I need to think? What if I thought there was $1 million on the line? Would I do it? I probably would. I'm going to sit down. If I believe there's $1 million on the line, I'm going to have to spend $1 million if I don't do this, or I'm going to earn $1 million if I do. Like, I would do it. So you know that you have the capacity within you. The idea isn't to say like that we think that that's actually what's going to happen. Your brain knows that isn't it, but it's just to show you that you can tap in at any moment into doing something that you think you don't want to do, because that's not actually true. Whenever you tell yourself, I don't want to do something, or I'm too overwhelmed or confused to do something, it's really just, I don't think the outcome is worth moving through these emotions or feeling these emotions for. That's why I don't want to do it right now. But if you're completely confused and you knew that at the end of that you were going to achieve your goal today, you'd work through it. Like, it's just about reminding your brain of what is totally worth it on the other side of this. That won't necessarily make you do the action, but it's going to show you that do have within you the desire to want to do it right now. And then you go back to the process that I was talking about before, where you find the thought that's causing the emotion, you flip it, and then you come up with all the evidence for why that's true. You don't want to use your thoughts against yourself. You want to use them for you. So if the video doesn't blow up, I don't go, well, I'm never going to use that thought again. I know that that thought drives me, so I'm going to use that thought again, right? So because it's just the possibility that this could be the video that blows up, that's what's driving me. It's not, I know for sure this is the one. It's just thinking, what if this is it? This could be it, right? And then if it isn't, it isn't, and that's okay. It got me to take the action. It's not about whether the thought is even true. It's does the thought drive you to take the action to then make that thought true? Because you don't believe a thought because it's true. You believe a thought to make it true. When you think this video could be the one that blows up, then you feel driven, you take the action, you do it, and the chances that the video blows up is 100% more likely than if you don't make the video, right? You cannot possibly do it if you don't make the video. So you prove that thought true, right? Whereas if you think this isn't going to blow up, then you don't take the action and you guarantee that it doesn't blow up as your video. And I mean blow up in the good sense, right? Like it's going to take off.
Yes. Um, what you mean is going viral, basically. That's what you mean.
Yeah, going viral, exactly. Like it's your thoughts are a self-fulfilling prophecy, is what I'm trying to say. Whatever you choose to believe is how you're going to act, and then you're going to increase your chance of getting that result.
I love that. And I wanted to say this just to comment back to what you were saying. I was collecting 850 comments from people. They were asked what is their number one monster that's stopping them from action. And it was all within, it was self-doubt, lack of self-confidence, fear of, whatever. And none of them had any actual external things that stop them from moving forward. It's all within.
Yes.
One of the things I wanted to ask you is about addiction to chaos and addiction to overwhelm. And that's something I see specifically with some clients that are working 12, 14 hours a day, and yet they are still not moving that significantly. What do you think that is, and how do we overcome that?
Yeah. The addiction to chaos thing is so interesting, right? Because with an addiction, you're getting something from it. So you have to look and see, like, what is this person getting? Like, what is being overwhelmed? What is working 14 hours a day and not seeing results? How is that serving them in some way? So for me, I used to be this person who was working all day, every day, and still not seeing results. And what it was giving me was I was protecting myself from doing the things that truly mattered because I didn't want to have to actually do them. So all the work, and I say that in air quotes, that I was doing that was taking up all my time was things that I felt comfortable doing. And so I could buffer and avoid doing the things I actually needed to do. So if you're constantly overwhelmed or I once had a client who was late to every single coaching call we ever had. Sometimes she wouldn't turn up, and she would always have some big emergency. Like somebody would be having a baby, or she would have fallen off the back of a truck. And these were real things that would happen. and it would be amazing. And she would seem to attract all of these situations into her life. And when you actually look at it, the other people in her life who were in her house didn't have the same issues. Yes, the person still had the baby, but they were still able to send a message to say that they couldn't attend something. Or yes, someone fell off the back of a truck, but they still were able to, take the next logical step. But for her, she was using those things. She's a dear friend of mine. I say this with love and she knows it. But she was using those as a reason to avoid doing the things. And so even though they weren't nice situations, they were benefiting her. And so you just have to look at, if there's a situation in your life that you don't like, how is it helping you in some way? Even if it's not helping you with what you really want, it's helping you in some way in the short term.
I love that. I love when you're saying, like, we have to identify what it is. And, your friend managed to identify that she just wanted to avoid facing herself in a way, but do you think that's disappointment or the emotion of like, I'm not competent? Like, what is the deeper emotion besides fear of not acting? Like, what if it turns out that I'm incompetent? Like, what if it turns out that I can't do something, like facing myself in that disappointment, or what is it? Do you think that it's deeper than that?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of self-doubt that we face in entrepreneurship. It's actually, I always joke, like, if you want to find your demons, become an entrepreneur, because you're going to have to face them. There's no way you can't if you have to put yourself out there and show up. So you're going to learn exactly what's going on inside you. So I think the self-doubt is the thing that's almost always underneath. If you really look at things, like, what are we truly thinking? It's not just the fear, it's the self-doubt of like, am I good enough? Will I be okay? Like, what will people think of me? And the solution to that is always to take the focus off yourself and put it on the people who need you. Because imposter syndrome, or the doubt, self-doubt, really thrives within you when you focus on yourself. And it's not going to go away by journaling on why you love yourself. It's going to go away by you focusing on the people who need your help and actually helping them. And then you've got some new evidence and some new examples for why actually you are competent at what you do. It's really hard to tell yourself you're competent and believe it until you have some evidence for that. And so I always give the example of, like, if your friend, or you see someone on the side of the road, whether they're your friend or not, they might, let's say they're bleeding out, like they've broken their leg and it's split in two and they're bleeding out on the side of the road. And you're thinking, I don't know, am I good enough for this? Like, and that's essentially what's happening. You're questioning, you're doubting whether you're good enough when the person is in front of you suffering. You wouldn't do that, right? You see someone bleeding out, you just run over and see what you can do to help, whether you feel good enough or not, because it's not about you. And then you help them and you're like, oh, wow. And maybe you can't put their leg back together, but you can at least support them until someone can. And so no matter what little help that you can offer, every little piece of help, it's about taking that focus off you and yourself and putting it onto someone else and helping. And then that self-doubt cannot keep raging, because the more you focus on yourself, the more you doubt yourself. So put it onto someone else, and then you're going to start to notice that you actually can do what you need to do.
I also love your your bleeding to death example. I think that's very that's a great example. It's a bit dark, but it's a great example nonetheless. In your program that you are running right now, Execute It, right? You take entrepreneurs through 3 months of intensive. And I'm curious if you can explain about that program a little bit. I'm sure you told me that there's no spots left, but I'm sure you might do it again this year. So for the people who are interested in getting back to action mode and really overcoming themselves, can you just explain about the program a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I will definitely be opening the program again throughout this year. So Execute It is a system for learning how to execute any goal that you have. So you can achieve any goal that you set with this system. It's a repeatable system that once you learn how to get yourself to take action, you can apply it to any future goal. So basically what happens is you come in and I'm going to walk you through from where you are right now to having the goal that you want to achieve. And the way that we do that is there's 5 key things. The first thing you have to do is create a guaranteed plan, something that your brain really believes is going to work. So I work that out with you. We have a private session and do a strategy that's going to work. Then you come and create a time management schedule that's actually going to work for you to do this, because some people who come in my program are working full-time, or some people have other businesses that they're running. And so you have to create a time management schedule that actually treats you like a human being and not like a robot, because a lot of us have a tendency to want to schedule things out for our most ambitious, most productive selves, forgetting that most of the time we aren't our most productive selves. So you learn how to create that scheduling system for yourself. Then the third thing that you do is you prime your mind. Every single day in the program, we are priming your mind so that you are overcoming all of the things that are stopping you from taking action. The fourth thing is you do my follow-through formula. You learn the exact process for overcoming any resistance that you have, the confusion, the overwhelm, self-doubt, fear, or lethargy. And you learn exactly how to get yourself to follow through every single time. So you always do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And then the fifth thing is that together we overcome those external obstacles, because like you said, like they're almost all internal, and that's what the first 4 steps are about, is those internal. But then there's the fifth thing, which is sometimes a client's going to say no to you if you're a business owner, or sometimes you're going to try a marketing technique and it's not going to work. Or if you're not in business and you come and join the program, sometimes you're going to try something with your goal and it's just not going to work, and we have to overcome those and make new decisions, and I help you do that and overcome every single obstacle. So I'm walking you through that entire process
I
to
love
achieving
that.
whatever goal that you have.
And when would be the next intake, and how can people, I guess, get notified or
Yeah, just come and get notified. Go to my website, saraharnoldhall.com, and that's where you want to sign up. You can either email me directly there, or you can go to, there's a quiz there that you'll want to take. It's called Why Do You Really Procrastinate? And if you do that, you're going to get on my email list. You're going to learn all about how to stop procrastinating, and you'll get the next intake. I don't have the next intake dates, but it's going to be in the next couple of months. So definitely want to get on that list so you can get in.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for your time. I wanted to ask you before I let you go about your future plans and your goals for yourself, for your business. If you can share that with the listeners, I'm just curious about those too.
Yeah, of course. Well, I set a goal to make $1 million in 1 year by the end of 2025. So any 12-month period between now, or between when I set it, which was 2022, I think, and the end of 2025. So the idea of doing that is I didn't want to be thinking like, oh, in the future I'll hit this goal. I always want to be thinking, I'm doing this right now. I'm in the middle of making $1 million in 12 months. I don't know if it's going to be this next 12 months or if it's going to be the last 6 months and the next 6 months. I don't know when it's going to happen, but my goal is to do it by the end of 2025.
I love that. Any other goal that you set for yourself in your personal life, perhaps, or something that you'd like to share with people?
Yeah, my goal is to do a salsa dancing performance, and I am doing one. I get to dress up in this entire, like, I started salsa dancing last year, and I had the dream of dressing in like the proper outfit with like the tail and the sparkles. And in 3 weeks' time, I'm going to be performing on stage to a big audience.
Wow.
Really excited.
I love that. I love that for you. Well, I will be seeing that on Instagram. Hopefully, you're gonna share that with the people. That sounds so exciting.